Don't you think it's kind of weird that God is a father and a son? Just think about it. That's a really odd thing. Listen to this. This is Galatians 4. When the time had fully come, God sent his son, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those under the law. I completely get why Muslim people and Jewish people really recoil at the idea that God has a son, because it seems so strange to them. It's like the idea of God, having children is a bit funny. I get it. But it's not like marriage the way we know it. It's not like where you have a wife and then together, you are intimate and then you have children. Something else a little bit different's going on here. This is what it says in Hebrews. It says, in the past, God spoke to our ancestors through the prophets at many times in different ways. But in these days, he has spoken to us by his Son, who he has appointed as the heir of all things. Normally, when you think of children, you think of, someone that comes along later, but they didn't exist before. But Jesus isn't a son like that at all. Jesus is eternal, the same as the Father. This is a weird thing. Jesus isn't a son in the sense that the Father just decided, you know what, I'm going to have a kid and create this son. No, Jesus was there from the beginning. This isn't the normal father-son type of thing. What we've got is God showing himself to us via this analogy because there's something he wants to teach us about himself. If you think about God, God was there for all of eternity. Before he made people, he would have done some thinking. Now, I don't know how hard it was for God to think. I imagine for God, thinking is not hard at all. I think he could just do whatever he wants. So everything that God did was well thought out. So God chooses to show himself to us as a relationship. He shows himself to us as a relationship between a father and a son. He's teaching us that he's not just one independent person who's like in charge of everything. He's showing us that he's actually a relationship. Think of it like this. God is showing us that he's a father to someone. In other words, he's someone that cares for someone else deeply. But God's also showing us that he's a son to someone, that he's someone that listens to someone else, that cares, that he can follow instructions. So by showing us a relationship, God's showing us the type of God he is. He's a relational God. He's one that cares for others. He's one that listens to others. He cooperates with others. He works together. In other words, God has revealed himself to us as a father and a son to teach us about himself. Like when I tell my children things like, I remember September 11, and it's like for me, it's seeing those towers come down was such a living memory because I was alive. But my children weren't alive. It's like I'm talking ancient history to them. So they didn't exist and they've come into existence. And so we know about generations, but God doesn't have that problem. It's the relational aspect of it that we learn from God. Now, this is very, very interesting for one reason that I want to explain right now. If God is like this, if God is a relational God, then we as God's people are relational people. In other words, we're not independent of God and we're not independent of each other. My biological father and my spiritual father, John Alley, he always said that the wineskin of the body of Christ is father-son relationships. Now that might sound like gobbledygook, what I just said. The wineskin, it's like the structure, like it's the way the body of Christ is made up. It's made up of father-son relationships. It's made up, the whole body of Christ is made up of people who care about others and help them and input into their life. And it's made up of people who listen to others and follow advice and receive instruction. But those sons are also fathers. In other words, every person in the body of Christ is supposed to be someone who's in relationship with others, both caring for, giving to, but also receiving from and learning from others. And what my Father says is the whole body of Christ, all of God's people, all the believers, are fathers and sons, just like God is both a father and a son. Now, of course, you might be female, so you're a mother and a daughter, to use the similar type of analogy. We're all people who relate to one another to both receive and to give, and that is the structure of real faith.